Hello, and welcome to the second installment of the Queer Black Wedding Experience at the Crossroads of Love and Community. I'm Broughton.
And I'm Michael Broughton, and we are the owners of Broughton Media Group, LLC, and the founders of Black Gay Weddings.
The focus of today's session is advocacy, advocating for the community and each other. By definition, to advocate means to publicly recommend or support. However, many people seem to confuse advocating with abdicating because they abdicate their responsibility to uplift the community and each other. When an LGBTQIA plus couple of color gets married, it's time for celebration, not abdication. Support them by letting the world know that I planned that wedding, or I catered that wedding, or I officiated that wedding, and be proud about it. That's the key to changing the hearts and minds of those blinded by bigotry and bias.
In a moment, our moderator, Jordan Maney, will take control of the Q&A, but first, my husband and I would like to thank each and every one of our panelists for taking time out of your busy schedules to be a part of this much-needed conversation. We also want to thank all of you for tuning in and actively participating in the discussion. Jordan, it's all yours.
It's all mine. Okay.
Yes.
All right, everybody. My name is Jordan Maney. I'm the owner of All the Days, which is a wedding planning firm based in the very hot San Antonio, Texas. So if you hear fans, there are like 3 fans and the AC going on. Please don't judge me, y'all. Brown noise. I'm so just honored and privileged to be here to be able to moderate this conversation with some of the greatest leaders in our industry, and introduce you to some new faces as well. So I would like to briefly read everybody's biographies just so that you can get a better idea of who they are, and then we will jump into this conversation. If you have a question for any of our panelists during this time, please make sure that you put it in the Q&A section so that we can tackle that at the end of the session, not in the chat. To find my question, just being honest. Go ahead and put it in the Q&A. Get all this humor for free. So go ahead and introduce you to our first panelist. Obviously our hosts, Michael and Lawrence Broughton of Black Gay Weddings. I'm going to tell you a little bit about them. Lawrence is the owner and CEO of Broughton Media Group, LLC. He's a 24-year retired veteran of the U.S. Air Force, has a bachelor's degree in information systems, 3 master's degree in human resources, public administration, and journalism. His vision is for Black Gay Weddings to become the LGBTQ Community of Color's premier feature publication. Thank you so much, Lawrence.
Thank you.
Also sitting next to him is his lovely husband, Michael, who's the owner and COO of Broughton Media Group, LLC, a world traveler, floral designer, and licensed mortician. Michael, with the help of his husband, created Black Gay Weddings to be a safe place where LGBTQ couples of color could share their love stories with the world. Thank you all so much for putting this together and bringing all of us together today. Thank you. Now I want to introduce you to Chanda Damiels, who is, you're going to find out in this bio. I'm so excited. The creative director of Chanda Damiels Planning and design and owner of a Monique Affair, one of the leading LGBTQ event planning companies in the Bay Area and San Francisco. Chanda's weddings have been featured in Equally Wed, H&H Weddings, Martha Stewart Weddings, The Knot, Carrots and Cake, to name a few. And if that's not big enough, here's the kicker. Most recently, he was named one of the top wedding planners in the world. The entirety of our planet by Harper's Bazaar. That's fantastic and well overdue. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so glad I got to read that. That just made me so happy. Biron. Hello, Biron. Biron is the leader in Southwest Airlines Culture and Engagement Department. I miss flying. I miss it so much. He leads a team of change leadership practitioners supporting departments within the technology portfolio, balancing project work with oversight of his team and their efforts. Outside of work, Biron is a fitness and auto enthusiast, ooh, child, loves cooking, music, travel, brainstorming new ideas, and spending time with family. Thank you for being here today, Biron.
You're welcome.
And if you watched last week, you see a familiar face. Aprill, thank you for being here today. Aprill is the founder of Tulle and Tinsel Event Company, which provides intuitive event management, design, and coordination in the Washington, D.C. area. Aprill's journey into the events industry began 7 years ago when she began working for one of the top wedding planners in Atlanta, Georgia. Over the years, she has worked with some of the top vendors in the industry and developed a deep passion for creating custom experiences that perfectly showcase each client's unique vision and personality. In her free time, she enjoys baking, crafting, entertaining, and spending time with her wife, Nicole. Thanks again, Aprill. So glad that you're here.
Good to be here.
And last but not least, we have Marion here with us. Absolutely Blooming is a Dallas-based full-service event planning and design production firm offering expert planning, incredible floral and decor for socials or weddings, grand or small. Our commitment is to provide our clients from idea to execution the highest level of service, professionalism, and lots of fun in the process of creating and executing each event. They love working with other event and wedding professionals, and their services can be selected separately. Also available to travel, so hit up the socials to get some information. Thank you so much, Marion, for being here. Okay, so we're gonna jump into these questions. These juicy questions that I'm excited for y'all. I hope y'all are ready because it's gonna be great. Hey, everybody in the chat. I see that the chat is starting to pop off. Again, if you have questions, put it in the Q&A. Other than that, just keep that chat going. If you have some particularly lively notes from our conversation, go ahead and use it for that. So our first question, we're all talking about advocacy. Advocating for ourselves and each other, right? And I feel like that's always a conversation when we talk about inclusion that we kind of walk around, because it's always easy to say like, hey, we need the white community to do this for us, right? But when it talks about within the community, sometimes that conversation can be difficult. So what are some of the barriers for greater advocacy across marginalized communities and within our industry? Biron, do you want to start us off?
I'll be more than happy to.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, when I think about barriers, there are 4 things that really come to mind. One is lack of time. And I personally can relate to that one because I usually would say, oh, I just don't have time. Another would be a lack of understanding, either of the needs that exist or what you can actually do. I would also say a lack of willingness to understand. You have to be open to seeing another person's perspective, putting down your ideals or your beliefs of what should and shouldn't be. And then you also have to have grace and patience to, one, be open to the journey, but then also be open to constructive criticism or education so that you could be well informed. I always say that there's a journey that people typically go through when it comes to advocating for people. There's typically the fear zone, which is where you start because you're typically not sure of what you should do, what you shouldn't do, what you should say. Then there's the understanding and learning zone where you're really just needing to immerse yourself to better understand another person's perspective, especially within our community. And then lastly, once you're able to really have that understanding, it's all about, taking action and then growing from that action. So I don't find that it's our responsibility to always lead people through that journey, but if there is someone who is open and if they are willing, it really is up to us to have grace and understanding for that individual and to try to also help them in their journey so that we can build and advocate and build a bridge.
Oh, that's a beautiful.
Okay, we can end that now.
Grace and understanding part, for sure. To get people, yeah. Go ahead, Marion.
Yeah, to add to that, Biron, I think one of the hard things, and it's not hard, coming to this particular setting for the LGBTQIA community, what we see is a lot of people think they just want to step in and just, let's get started. And I think that if people took the time, I guess from my perspective, my life has been in the arts world, so I'm not. This is not new ground. And if you want to learn something about people, find some things, find some organization groups. There are all kinds of things that you can do in any community, and this one is no different. Mm-hmm. In Dallas, for me, from HRC to the Dallas Voice when they have events, to there's a North Texas LGBT Chamber of Commerce. There are all kinds of things and organizations. So my thing is, find your way so you can get to know the people.
Yeah.
And, nobody's going to be upset with you for asking questions, but you just cannot step into this space and say, I want to be a part of this. I want to start doing weddings. And I've had people to say that to me. How did you do that? Mm-hmm. And they don't talk about the relationship aspect of it. And for me, it's about, these people come into my life and they are, they become a part of my family. I mean, I don't have anybody that comes in and we work for and create things for, that they don't leave an imprint on my life, and we become family after that. And it's unfortunate that people are not willing to invest that kind of time, because it's an investment.
Yeah. And the thing that I think is really interesting that you hit the nail on the head with is sometimes we get so riled up and excited to be a part of movements and change that we assume we're the first to do something, or we think that we got to lead it. And it's really like, you're late to the party. We're glad you came, but we already have activities scheduled. You just got to fall in line. You know what I mean? Like, we don't need you. You don't need to be the host.
Exactly.
Michael and Lawrence, what about you? What are some barriers that you've seen that you think go in hand with why it can be difficult to advocate within our communities?
Well, I think Marion and Biron kind of hit on education is definitely key. And I think from a publication point of view, or from being from our platform, a lot of people think, oh, I want to get into same-sex weddings or the LGBT community. I want to get into these weddings because they see a dollar sign. Posting a picture won't do it. It takes more work than that. Definitely you want to donate to some LGBTQ efforts. You want to participate in some organizations that have to do with our community. You want to make your content inclusive of everyone. People want to spend money with companies that reflect their values. And that's just my little 10 cents. So
that's perfect. Lawrence, do you have anything to add?
My baby said it all.
Hey, George, I want to say one other thing. As I was talking to Byron before, one of the things that we have to come to terms with is the Black church and gayness. And we're not there yet.
Oh,
and
God.
We don't start preaching.
And I need
the
Black church to come along.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about not judging people, but they do. They talk about all kinds of, we include, and we're supposed to love everybody, but they don't. Mm-hmm. And so I I am hoping to see more inclusivity in the Black church. And you cannot pretend that it does not exist. There's not a Black church in town that doesn't have somebody gay in it. Gay people are religious too. Mm-hmm. So it makes me very uncomfortable that we find that the church has just not opened the doors and stop being embarrassed by it. Right. And not that they got to have a long conversation. My thing is treat everybody the same, and then we can move on.
Ooh,
and here's the thing: if you take all the gays out of church, honey, there goes the choir, the musicians. Church is just boring and done. So you can't pray the gay away, as they say. You can't do it. It's impossible.
And I know this could be a topic in itself. And I know talking about the Black church and what that means to the gay community could be a whole panel in itself. But
exactly.
And having a conversation with my grandmother when I was telling her I was getting married. She said, you know, at the end of the day, God is love. And the thing that people have to remember is that you have to get out of your idea of what God represents, what he stands for, and what he accepts, because no one's perfect. And it's not our responsibility to dictate what God should approve or ordain. So I think, once again, that could be a whole separate topic, but I really think we have to just let go of preconceived notions that have either been handed down generationally and actually get to know and build a relationship and understand the Bible, the religion, Christ for ourselves.
Right.
Amen.
I grew up as
Chanda, what about you? Oh,
I grew up as a preacher's kid, so you know, I needed therapy for a while, you know, to actually deal with and cope with who I was and to be able to accept who I am. So yeah, that's a whole conversation that we need to have. That might be a mini series.
We're gonna put a pin on that. We're just gonna put a pin there.
come back to this one. We're gonna have to come back to this one because you're right, Biron. There's a lot of depth to go into that conversation. Chanda, what about you? What do you think some of the barriers for advocacy are? We have some of our attendees talking about, you know, we always talk about the gay community. We're usually good about, when we go LGBTQIA, we talk about the G and we talk about the L, often at the times of erasing the other communities involved in that. So what are some barriers that you've noticed?
For me, I feel like two of the biggest ones is the lack of resources and also the platforms to have our voices heard. Because I feel like sometimes people feel like they don't have a space where they can truly speak for others. But if you have an Instagram following, you can speak. If you have a Facebook following, you can speak. The littlest thing that you can do can create, if we all do just one little thing, we can all like make change for folks. Yeah. And I feel like we're digging too deep when it's really about the simple, going back to the basics of caring about people. We don't have to analyze and do a whole bunch of stuff. We are so divided. I don't know why. I have an idea. But when we go back to that core about, I care about you. I want you to be okay. I want you to be safe. If we start at that root of how we were supposed to be, then boom, there you go. It's not rocket science at all.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And I mean, oof, everybody's just preaching tonight. Oh my goodness, but that's perfect, because it really is about like, how can I help you, versus trying to spin your wheels on, I need to understand everything. You really don't. You need to just respect and be kind to other human beings. Aprill, I know that you wanted to add something.
Hi, everybody. I think everyone has made some really good points, and mine just kind of touches on pretty much what everyone else has said. I think one of the biggest barriers within the business side of this is definitely there's a lot of discomfort with people sharing their views. I mean, even coming from other vendors that are part of the LGBTQ community, some of them don't even feel comfortable putting that out there because they're afraid of losing clients, losing vendor relationships and all of that, especially because of what we discussed with the Black church and just the Black community in general. We have a very, it's very divisive, and oftentimes, I mean, we've all seen it, we discussed it a little bit last week. If you share a gay couple, oh my goodness, you can get so much hate and so many terrible things said to you. So a lot of people, they just kind of steer away from it, and they're afraid to kind of, get involved even. So they just completely just avoid it. So we kind of have to make sure that we're willing to be uncomfortable, willing to put ourselves out there, let other people know what we stand for, what's not okay. And you can't let these people manipulate how you run your business and how you showcase who you are and who you work with. So I think that's one of the really, really big ones that people need to be okay with. I mean, people that are homophobic, transphobic, and the list goes on and on, those aren't the people that, you want to deal with anyway. So you need to be okay with, not even paying any mind. So.
Yeah, 100%. What are some practices that the people listening and watching the replay or watching right now, that they can take, Chanda, I'm going to go back to you because you touched on this, that they can take into account to be better advocates of the Black queer community?
Let's see. So 2 things. So the first, what Aprill spoke about, if you're a publication, okay, so let me start over. So if you have like a wedding blog, or if you're a big publication and you see that LGBTQ couples, we want to be included. I want my couples to be on your page. They want to see their love stories on your page. So if you see that there is hate and you see all the like negativity, speak the hell up about it. Like, make a public stance and say, you know what? We don't stand for this. So like making that known and not being afraid to upset anybody because those are your true values. It has to start with those values. If you don't like hold those, then you're gonna like sit back and just delete comments. Don't do that. That is a coward way. The best way is to put it out there and say, you know what? We aren't doing this today. We will never do this. So that's the biggest thing. And then the other thing is, as creatives, as other creatives, if you see, I'm sorry, I saw that comment, I shouldn't have looked. But if you see that there aren't other LGBTQ couples, or if you don't see any other LGBTQ creatives in certain situations, speak up. Use your voice. Talk to that creator, talk to whomever and say, hey, you don't have any of these people featured, you don't have any of these weddings. Like, speaking up and using your voice. That's how I feel the best way to advocate for the community, for the Black queer community.
Yeah, y'all are preaching. I'm gonna start bringing out the tambourine in a couple seconds, because that is so accurate. Like, it's not just about, taking comments down. It's really letting people know the heart of your business. We're not going to have any of that type of language, of those types of attitudes. I'm not going to put those types of people in front of you like that. Ooh, you preaching. Marion, what about you?
Even within when we talk about the publications, and Chandra, I'm sure you've seen this. There has been, discrimination between, taking a Black wedding and somebody else, because I've experienced it a number of times. I think that, there is room. First of all, let me thank Lawrence and Michael for stepping out and starting Black gay weddings, because it was absolutely on point. And there are numerous people, lots of people that are very happy that it actually exists. And I think that more people, we need to talk about it. I know in my circle, I said, if you have to decide if you're going to be okay with it, and it's going to be uncomfortable, and discomfort brings about change. And if you're not all in, don't pretend to be in. And so my rule is, I said that if you want to be a part of this community, you have to be a part of this community like anything else that you're doing. And I think that Black people are so fly. We are so fly, and particularly in the LGBT community, when I talk to my couples and talk to other people who service this community, what I'm hoping is that more people will just open up and say, and stop being secret like it's some great secret, so people can have some choices. And that's what I really actually want more than anything else. I just need people to speak up and say, we're going to do this. We're going to be a part of this. We're going to showcase this wedding, and stop pandering. And, and we have to call some people out. That's the person that I am. I had my 61st birthday a couple days ago. And when I turned 60 last year, I told somebody, when you get to be this age, I don't have to mind what I say. I really don't. And I don't care if your feelings are hurt. If I'm telling the truth, then you're going to have to stand in that.
Mm-hmm. I call it a call up, not a call out. because I want you to do better.
Yeah.
I don't want you to stay stuck in your feelings. But I think it's also important to note, Marion, you're in Dallas, right?
Yes.
You're in Texas. So there are a lot of people who are still, you know, oh, I support the community quietly, privately. No. You have to be willing to speak up.
And, you know, and in this community, particularly the Biron, the HRC here raises millions and millions of dollars every year. Those dollars go around to all kinds of community. You know, Billy Porter was here this last year, was the guest of honor. And again, that's one of the things that we talked about, is that even within the community, you know, the white folks got to reach out. They got to stop pretending that, you know, we don't exist. You know, I don't want to even talk about pride, so let me just leave that there. But again, let's be honest. And you know, and what did somebody say last week? Call a thing a thing. I just think that, you know, I think within the LGBT community, it needs to be recognized that this is a very diverse community, and it needs to be inclusive, and stop pretending like, you know, it doesn't exist.
Yeah, I want to jump back to Chanda, because I think you had something to add.
I was going to say, you know, sometimes I feel, for me, because I am from California, that I really take it for granted how a little bit more open we are than other places. And I feel like everybody just needs to make it safe for everyone to feel comfortable with being who they are. Because I remember at a time when I started my business 21 years ago, there was a conversation of, as a Black planner, do I even put before I would get to any of the other levels, do I even put my face on my website to let these people know that I'm a Black planner? And I thought about it for 1 second. I was like, you know what? I am, because why would I want you? If you don't want to work with me, I don't want to work with you. Then I don't want you walking to the door of my office feeling shocked when I open it. You know what I mean? So I feel like we just need to make it safe for everyone. I'm so happy that I even know Aprill. I didn't even know any other LGBTQ planners. So I feel like we just need to make it safe for all of our brothers and sisters to feel comfortable, do their best, do their business, be amazing, and just give them as much support as we can.
Yeah. Aprill, you got something to say? Go ahead.
I just wanted to add to what Chanda said. One, I'm so glad that I know you too. But I mean, there's space for us. I mean, there's more that we don't know of, and we need people to be comfortable. We need them to put their face on their websites and on their Instagram pages, because people are looking for us. They want to use us. They want to feel comfortable. They want to feel advocated for. They want us to be that liaison for them with other wedding vendors. So I really hope that, you know, if there's other wedding vendors that are out there watching this that have struggled with whether or not they should put it out there, put themselves out there, and you know, talk about their personal lives and things like that, like, do it, because you really do attract a group of people that are so great to work with, and they genuinely want to work with you. You never want to hide parts of yourself just to get a client. You know, not all money is good money. I said that last week. You know, it's just not worth it. So I'm so glad that you did not do that, Chanda, and I'm so glad that I found you, and I hope that we're able to connect with many more.
Yeah. And the thing, like you said, what happens is it creates that chain reaction of more of us showing up and saying, hey, we're here, and feeling that sense of community and that feeling of safety there as well. Lawrence and Michael, what about y'all?
Advocacy. You know, I think for vendors, the first thing they should do is let their presence known by advertising with community publications that cater to us. All right. They should join online forums that address our issues. They should get familiar with the groups in your community that focus on our causes. And they should get involved by participating in functions that are intended to uplift the LGBTQIA+ community of color. For our attendees who are advocates, continue doing what you're doing and actively engage in conversations that matter to our community.
Yeah.
Openly show your support for LGBTQIA couples of color. Sometimes all it takes is a smile to let a couple boldly holding hands in public to know that it's okay to love out loud.
I love that.
Jordan,
Ooh. April, you want to go, and then I'll jump to Marion. April, you go first.
I just have one little thing to add to what Lawrence just said. I know one organization that, there's multiple chapters, but I know for me personally, I've always loved being a part of my Chamber of Commerce, my Gay Lesbian Chamber of Commerce. In DC, it's the Equality Chamber of Commerce, and it's largely a very white organization. So I always encourage my Black business owners, my Black wedding vendors to join, because it is such a great resource, and they do need our representation in that as well. We need to be a part of the board. We need to be, seen and heard in those avenues as well. So I always think, if that's something you're interested in, I know that's helped me very, very much in my business and kind of being visible and being able to, further advocate and things like that. So just wanted to add that, sorry.
Marion, what about you?
the other thing I just wanted to add this was that outside of all those things, right now in Dallas, we're having an uptick in murder of trans women. And I think, past all of what we do, these are wonderful human beings in this world that things are happening to, bad things. And I think it's real important, just outside of our world of weddings and events and parties, that we look at these things as well. And so I want people to not just be focused on something that's surrounding events and weddings and parties and engagements, but I want them to look at the broader community. And for me right now, the trans situation is near and dear to my heart, and participate in a lot of those things. Because again, if you're being surface, people will know that. And so, my thing is that I'm crazy about people. And so I think that people will see that your interest is truly about a human being, regardless. And that's what's important.
I think I'm good. Can y'all hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry about that. And some of our panelists, like Carla, are just saying, like, yeah, that's the thing. Like, we want to make sure that we're not erasing other members of the community for the sake of one, right? Just say, oh, we're just going to focus on the gay and lesbian community, but forget about bisexual, trans.
Absolutely.
We have to be, it doesn't make sense. I think I said this to you, Aprill. It doesn't make sense. If you understand what oppression is like, it doesn't make sense to be complicit in anybody else's, right?
Come on, man.
We gotta be better, and we gotta make those points made for everybody as well. Biron, I didn't get a chance to get to you. I'm sorry, we just all preaching in here and I'm getting caught. What about you?
So you all touched on great points, and I think from a community perspective, stepping away from industry just a little bit, you said something that was really important, and I think if anything, that's the one thing I want to be able to hone in on. Don't be complicit in another's oppression, but I also feel as though we shouldn't be the cause of another's oppression. And when I think about the community and what attendees here can do, and I'm hoping that others can do as well, is we have to stop the inward judgment, the inward fighting, the inward discrimination, because it's a tough world out there without that by itself. And we have to have unity, we have to have solidarity for us to really make change happen. And I really do feel like it's difficult for us to build advocates for our community when we don't even accept each other. So I would love for everyone to have courage to promote safety, but to also look at your fellow person, your fellow Black person, your fellow minority, to realize we have to band together because there's not a lot of representation for us anyway. And once we band together and we join forces and voices, we can begin to let people know we're here, we're important, and we want to be recognized.
It's all of us or none of us. It's all of us or none of us. Biron, you hit the nail on the head. I want to remind our panelists that if you have Q&A, if you have a question, we're going to do a short Q&A session after this. So go ahead and put your question in the Q&A section of your dashboard. We're going to close up our last few questions that I have for our panelists. You all have been so great. Oh, I love it. I love this. I'm going to start off with Aprill. What are some missed opportunities for greater inclusion that you've witnessed in our industry, and how can we make those teachable moments? Oh, we can't hear you, Aprill. You gotta unmute yourself. It's okay.
Sorry about that. I unmuted myself now. I think there's a bunch of missed opportunities. I think, we kind of talked about this before. I think my least favorite missed opportunity is definitely the tokenism that I see. That, you have publications, you have pages that they're trying to show like, hey, we are queer friendly, and here is a queer couple, and we're gonna post a picture, and it's this styled shoot, and it's not even actual queer people, and that drives me crazy. I mean, it just has tokenism written all over it. So I feel like that's one thing that we should stop. I mean, there's plenty of actual queer models that are willing to model for you if you are doing a styled shoot, or you can just, organically, through your advocacy, through your support of the community, actually, just share couples that you're actually working with in an organic way, because you actually like and enjoy their love story, not just because you're trying to hit a quota, or you need some content for Pride Month. So I think that's a huge missed opportunity right there. So
yeah, that's a great answer. We don't need anybody being like, oh my God, we love you, Pride, and then we don't see them for 11 months out of the year. Because we know people do that. Michael and Lawrence, what about y'all? What are some missed opportunities that you've seen that could be learning opportunities for others?
I mean, there's always opportunities. The opportunity has always been there. It's just, are you willing to take advantage of it? Are you willing to do the work? Are you willing to better educate yourself? And how sincere are you? You have a lot of people, like I said earlier, a lot of people want to get into Pride or the LGBT community because they see dollars and cents and they're not genuine. And that's the whole problem. You got this great publication and you throw in a gay couple here, there, but you're allowing us to get dragged. And that's why Black Gay Weddings is here, because we got dragged by a Black publication. A Black publication.
You weren't shocked.
Once did they speak out and say, hey, we do not tolerate this type of behavior. This is not cool. This is not okay.
Yeah.
No one stood up for us. So as Tyler Perry said it, if you won't give me a seat at the table, I'll make my own. And that's what we did. And this is a safe space where people can come and know that nobody's going to come on Black Gay Weddings and start all that foolishness. And no one should have to ever experience what my husband and I had to experience. It was wrong. It was wrong as two left shoes. It'll never happen here. And vendors, if you are out there and you can hear me and you're listening to me, if you are not sincere and you are not genuine, we will be able to figure you out. God gives us 5 senses. We use all of them. Okay? We can differentiate. We know if you fake. I can spot it. So I'm done. I'm sorry.
Where's my tambourine? Where is my tambourine? I'm mad because Michael took it off. I love it. Oh my gosh. Marion, I think you want to add something.
Well, one of the things that annoys me to the very end is that because we have, so I know that I'm significantly older than most of you. And I laugh because, I got all my news from the newspaper at one point in time and not social media. But having social media and being a part of it, one of the things that I find most troubling is that when a wedding is posted or somebody's getting, or whatever it is, how a planner or a photographer or whatever the vendor is does not tag each and every vendor that participated in that wedding. It is almost like, why? And I see it all the time. The planner will post something, will post a wedding, will not tag any of the other vendors. It doesn't cost you anything. And I think, just being open to do that part of it is really important. The thing with Michael and Lawrence, even though you were dragged, what came out, the teachable moment part was that you started a publication that allowed to give people, Black couples, someplace to go where it was safe. And I think, and I think there are other publications that could definitely do a much better job. And again, I think those people need to be called out, quite frankly, because again, if they are not going to protect first of all, we as planners and vendors that are turning over our information about our clients to publications or whoever it is, we're entrusting people to do the right thing. And if they're not going to do the right thing, we can't stand by and not say or do anything. So I think it's really an opportunity for us to really be better advocates for our couples. And I think also through social media and all of these things that we have available to us, which are free for the most part, that we use them to uplift each other. Like, why wouldn't you feature a vendor that's, if you're a planner, why wouldn't you feature a florist that you like, or here's a clergy person that you love? Because again, this community is looking for people. We're the experts, and we need to be able to help people. So we have an opportunity to do that.
There's definitely some industry standards that we need to set so that everybody's getting lifted and everybody's getting elevated and not just certain voices. Michael, was there something you wanted to add?
What Marion just touched on about, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. What Marion touched on about vendors and credit. I had the most interesting conversation yesterday with a couple in Atlanta who bought a wedding cake, and they noticed the baker of this particular vendor posted all these other wedding cakes and the couples with the cake, but they didn't post them with their cake. And that's why I say we know when it's genuine. And they were like, what? And they didn't say where the event was, who got married, none of that. That's what I'm talking about.
I want to fight people, to be quite honest.
That conversation was yesterday with a couple, and they were really about, like, we paid you, you didn't include, you posted all the other couples you've made cakes for, but you didn't post us with our cake. And then when you posted our cake, you didn't credit, where it came from, what wedding was it? Because you don't want people to know that you baked a cake for a gay couple. Mm-hmm. So then why accept my gay money?
All I can say is the list is coming, y'all. The list is coming. Just.
Chanda, do you want to add something to that? Really?
I was just gonna say for Miss Marion, I always credit all of my creatives that I work with weddings on. And yes, especially a photographer, what I like to do is make sure whatever picture I'm showing, I tag that person. And then maybe in the comments, because I know some people may not want their comments to be, or their description to be so full, but at least in the comments, you can list all the creatives. That's my rule of thumb.
Yeah.
And then to speak on, this question was a really good one. It made me think of something that I watch maybe a little bit too often, is that I feel like Black Hollywood needs to utilize Black creatives for their events. They're out talking about and making songs and doing all this other stuff and talking about like being pro-Black and giving money to foundations. But then when you have the opportunity to hire somebody, to uplift somebody, to give them a contract that may change their career, you go to someone else. So it's kind of disingenuous, because it's like, what are you really thinking about?
Yeah.
Because when you start hiring those creatives and then people can start talking about them, you're giving and posting it on your Instagram. That is like the biggest thing a creative can do, can ask for. And then how can we make it a teachable moment? I feel like the people who work with these big celebrities, they have to be intentional on searching for Black creatives. There are so many amazing Black event creatives that can produce, and sometimes better, these high quality events, but it's just about giving another, like Brian said, giving another, thinking about us and coming to us first. That's been every time there's a big event, I'm always searching who planned this event and like just being like trying to find, and it's always another person. It's not ever one of us.
Yeah.
So I feel like that needs to change big time.
And that's a massive point, because sometimes I think we get like, oh, you know, you got to advocate for Black people, but sometimes people just mean me. They don't mean everybody else. They don't mean the rest of us. And sometimes we have to check ourselves too and be like, okay, whose voice is not at the table? Who am I missing out on this styled shoot? Who's not here? And it's a constant process, but I appreciate you bringing that up. Like, it doesn't just start with us. It's people at the top too who need to put in that work. Biron, what about you?
So, you know, I have a different perspective because I don't have the pleasure to actually work in the industry. I had the pleasure of working with a phenomenal planner that took care of me and my partner as we were planning our wedding. And I will say what made us feel included was the fact that, one, there was safety. Two, there wasn't tolerance for any type of norms that would make us feel uncomfortable. And I believe she may have gone ahead of every meeting to have a level setting conversation just to say, these are my clients. This is what's going to be tolerated. This won't be tolerated. If it's going to be an issue, we will go to the next person.
Yeah.
And what I will say is that, to me, having that sacredness and that protection allows you to feel included, and it creates an inclusive environment from a client perspective. And I think that just speaks to the excellence that is required, especially in this type of business when it comes to the LGBTQIA plus community.
Include all those letters. And you know what's really interesting that I love that you mentioned is doing that groundwork ahead of time to make sure that your clients are comfortable. You don't want your clients coming in feeling like they have to come out to everybody. You don't want your clients coming in feeling like, can I hold my partner's hand, or is this person going to be weird? You're supposed to be enjoying yourself in this process, and we really want to make sure that for everybody watching replay or live, it's these simple actions. Chanda said it perfectly. Simple, consistent actions that can just keep your couples happy and feeling safe.
Mm-hmm. There's a level of distrust that I've seen, and all of us have seen it. There's a level of distrust. I don't know why it is. You know, most of us, I think in this forum, we try to use as many Black vendors that are available, the best, you know, the best of the best when we're doing our work. But there's a level of distrust and jealousy and all of that. And people need to address, they need to check themselves. Because we're not going to be able to move forward. We're not going to be able to grow the business and be, as a friend of mine says, we don't want to be $1 million businesses. We want to be $1 billion businesses. And so in order to do that, we have to decide that we want to trust each other. We as a people have to decide that if somebody is giving us some information and you're uncomfortable with it and you don't like to be criticized, nobody's attacking you all the time. Now, if you're wrong, you might feel attacked, and you probably should be. However, the reality is that we have to decide that we're going to be comfortable with each other and trust each other and want to grow. And that's not what I see all the time, because I'm telling you, as a person that's a little bit older than you guys, I mean, I look around and I just kind of, you know, I don't have time for it. And so it's unfortunate. But, you know, Black people are going to have to be more responsible to Black folks. They need to decide to seek out all kinds of vendors across the board, whether it's apparel, whether it's flowers, planners. We have to do a better job, because if we don't do it, who's gonna do it?
Marion, why are you doing this to me? Chanda, do you want to add something to that?
I'm
And then head into the last question.
That and say this too. As Black creatives and Black businesses, we have to step up our game. We have to step up our game. We got to break out of that mindset of being a Black-owned business and what that all means. Get rid of that stereotype. We need to work hard to get rid of that stereotype. And then also, when you are a Black person coming to a Black creative, respect their business, respect their price. You can never go to anyone else and ask for a discount. You're not getting one from me. You know what I mean? Like you have to respect everybody's talent. And you have to understand, we know how to run our businesses. We know what we should make. So if you can't afford it, keep it moving. There's somebody else who's just starting out in different categories. But the key thing that I'm trying to say here is we as Black creatives, we have to step up our games, be the absolute over the best, and break out of that stereotype so we can start getting, that's how I feel. Okay,
you brought up a point. No. You brought up a great point that I think I can tie into the question that we have for Q&A later. But that's an excellent point of just don't come over here asking for cousin discounts. Just cause no. Aprill, what about you? You had something to add?
I agree that Chanda did bring up a really good point that does tie into the question that's in the Q&A box. But one, just amen to everything that you said. I do know that is a topic that we can have a whole other panel about, and maybe we need to have like a little housekeeping meeting amongst ourselves, because I do feel like there is sometimes, some of us may lean on, hey, they're not using me because, oh, I'm Black, I'm brown, when sometimes it's like you do really just have to step your game up, you have to make sure that you're putting in the work, you're staying on top of the trends, you're staying on top of what's current, you're doing good business practices, you're being responsive to your clients, and you're being professional. So, but on the flip side, clients need to respect our businesses as well. I mean, I feel like this is a whole other panel that I think we talked about, good practice as a client as well. I mean, I'm not your cousin, I'm not your aunt, I'm not your best friend, I'm not your sister, and you wouldn't be texting your lawyer, your doctor, your whoever at all times a day. You wouldn't be calling them at 6 o'clock in the morning. You wouldn't expect them to give you instant answers, even though you don't respond to my emails. But if you send me an email, I'm supposed to be sitting there waiting for it. You know what I mean? Like, you have to respect our businesses and our hustle, and understand that, we're working with multiple people, you know what I mean? So I do completely agree with what Chanda says. I think that's a really, really great point. And it goes from both ends. So
that was perfect. You had some pent up in you in that one, Aprill.
That is a topic that I have a lot to say about. I feel like
I was like, ooh, I felt that.
I get real comfortable, but I feel like there's this level of comfort that just comes like, oh, you're Black too. Okay, homegirl. Like, I can be a little bit more comfortable with you, and it's just like, this is still a business. This is still a business relationship. And we do have to maintain these boundaries, because, I still have a family, a life, and other things that I want to do. I'm not, and I do feel like sometimes people think that as Black business owners, we're literally just sitting there at the pool with a drink, and we're just waiting for them and ready to go. If they're like women, it's just like, no, that's not how you expect any other business to work. So don't expect that from us either. Obviously, responding within a reasonable amount of time and things like that, but having that level of respect for our time and our business.
Yeah. Marion, I think you wanted to add something to that, and then I'm going to get to the last question and we'll go into the Q&A. Go ahead.
As clients come to us, other Black clients and looking for our services, be honest. Just be honest. Tell us what you can spend. Tell us what you can't spend. I started my business as a florist, and so I own a bunch of stuff, a bunch of really nice things. Mm-hmm. And most of the times, I can do something for somebody that does not have a lot of money. I'm okay with that. That's who I am. But don't come to me and lie. And that's what happens. So, when couples show up, when you show up to a vendor's door, I don't care who it is, a photographer or whoever it is, a planner, be honest with them. Yeah. And they will tell you what they either they can, either they can't, and then maybe they can refer you to somebody. But don't play this game like you got $1 million and you don't.
Right. Balling on the budget.
Oh, goodness. Okay, Aprill, I'm going to give you time to quickly add, and then we'll get to the last question. Go ahead.
Just to add to what Marion said, obviously that's one of the first questions I ask. Everybody is so uncomfortable when you bring up the budget question, and I think it's because they have this idea that, I'm going to price gouge them. If I tell them my budget is this, then they're going to say like, that's exactly how much it costs. And that's really not the case. It's really just to make sure that we can make the appropriate suggestions for you and just know what we're dealing with. If you're not comfortable giving me a budget, it's really hard to work. You know what I mean? So I'm going to save the rest of what I want to add to that when we get to the question that's in the Q&A box. And just so we can keep it
question. It's a good question. Michael, you wanted to add something?
Speaking of budget weddings, and I'll be brief, and I don't want to offend anyone in any way, but if you look at BGW, you can see that a lot of these couples that have submitted their photos and their stories have spent, a nice amount of money for their wedding. You can tell that they've taken the time to plan their day exactly like they want it. And the one thing that we don't want to do, we understand that there are couples that probably can't afford a $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 wedding. Yeah. We do try to make sure that we include everyone despite what their budget is. Now, granted, you send me a picture of y'all in the backyard with the barbecue pit in the back. It's not gonna make it to Black Gay Weddings. I'm just sorry. Because you can do some beautiful DIYs and do some things yourselves. There are all kinds of ways that, everybody can't afford, to have a wedding plan. They might have to get a day of coordinator. I get all of that. But just speaking from us, because we do get submissions and I'm like, okay, what do you want me to do with that? Mm-hmm. But we respect everyone's love and we want to showcase everyone. But I just want for the people who follow Black Gay Weddings, I just want you to be mindful of that when you're submitting photos to us, that, just kind of take a look and be like, is this really something that I want to submit, Okay.
And in general, work for us, the iPhone photos, and then, people are getting, I don't know what those little throwaway cameras, disposable cameras that they're going out and buying. You can't substitute professional photography. You just can't. Yeah. All right. So
also, I think it's a matter of aesthetic and making sure that whatever place you're submitting to matches the aesthetic that you have.
That's what I wanted to say.
Wedding and just I think there's a lot of shame that happens when people start to plan their wedding where I don't have a $75,000, $100,000 plus budget. All I got is $5,000. Like you said, use what you have. Don't feel ashamed of what you have. There's still something beautiful happening because of it, but also be mindful of where you're pitching submissions to and making sure that, like, the same way that you said, you want to make sure that you feel comfortable and safe there. You don't want nobody making fun of your wedding on a place where the aesthetic doesn't.
Exactly. We wouldn't allow that to happen, but still.
Right.
Exactly. I know you wouldn't. So we're going to get to that question after this one. What do you hope for the future of our industry? Chanda, do you want to start? Since you're a top wedding planner in the world. I just love saying that.
Okay, so my hope for the industry is for all creatives, all wedding creatives, all publications, is to make sure everything is 100% inclusive for everyone, for every single one. I was so overjoyed to find out about Black gay weddings, because I mean, there are plenty, there are other, because like we talked about, making sure that the weddings you submit match whatever brand you're taking it to. There are several wedding blogs that I submit my weddings to that I know matches my style, but then to break out and have one that's exclusively, I think I was on the page when I found out about it. I just started liking every single picture. I'm crazy. Let me just calm this down a bit. But just to see so many of us on that page, I was like, okay, I'm sending this wedding. I'm just going to flood them. I'm just going to send them all of the ones that I know would be so welcomed here. Because I feel like when you don't include every single body, you cut off so many opportunities for those folks. You cut off like people's income and speaking engagements and other opportunities. So my goal this year, I want to do a trans wedding. That is I've never had a trans couple, but that is my goal. I am going to, I don't know what I need to do, but that is my goal, because I want to do.
That's wonderful.
That's my answer.
You got people in the comments waiting to help you.
Yes, come on to California, come to Oakland. Yes, you certainly can.
I love it. Biron, what about you?
You know, I just would say more representation of love that reflects our community. And I think that comes from openness and acceptance from the vendors, as well as accessibility to planners. And once again, just the safe space that's required so that people don't walk into the situation with fear, and then the fear ends up keeping them from having the moment or the celebration that they actually deserve. So that's what I would love to see in the future.
I love that. Marion, what about you?
What I'd like to see is more Black vendors be more open to more LGBTQ plus weddings.
Yeah.
I think that, and bring a level of sincerity to that.
Yes.
And I think if you're able to do that, you'll find people that will work with you and stretch out. Like I said, I understand being uncomfortable. I got it. But again, you can't take somebody's money and think that they're not going to be able to see through that. Mm-hmm. And I also, when I look at the number of local and national, whether it's publications, whether it's conferences or whatever, there's one that I attended, and for a long time they had one Black person. It was Preston Bailey, and there was there was two, but no Black women. And I want to see, because if you're more inclusive, then you'll find people of different backgrounds will attend your conferences. And so I want to see more of that. But what I really want to see more than anything else, I'm looking forward to Michael and Lawrence hosting their first Black Gay Weddings conference live or on a platform, so that there will be a safe space for people to come in and ask the kind of questions and see the level of professionals that are out here that are able to help them get through, which should be one of the most exciting times of their life.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I can't wait for it either. What about you, Aprill?
Kind of piggybacking off of a little bit of what everyone else has kind of said, I really want, and what me and Chanda said earlier, I really want more Black LGBTQIA plus vendors to be comfortable sharing their story, being authentic, and making sure that it's known, so that these couples have that safe space and they don't have to feel like, oh, I need to ask these preliminary questions when I reach out to vendors. Are you okay with doing, you know, an LGBTQ wedding? Are you, and questioning themselves whether or not they're going to be comfortable, whether or not the vendor is going to be comfortable, and be in this really weird space, because no one should feel like that on one of the most important days of their lives. Mm-hmm. So if more people are willing to share their story and put themselves out there and make it known, it'll be a lot easier for us to all work together, to promote each other, but also to attract the clients that really need us to advocate for them. So that's what I hope. And I think that this will help. So
Michael and Lawrence, what about y'all?
I think, you know, my hope for the future industry can be summed up in 2 words: total inclusiveness, just like my sisters have said before me. I hope for a future where publications and vendors alike will see equal representational value in every union and not just rely solely on algorithms that skew towards a white majority. I hope for an industry that is united in taking on the challenges and change the restrictive laws in countries that continue to oppress LGBTQIA plus community of color and forbid the union of same-sex couples. A famous moderator once said in BGW, in a BGW video call, that if one of us is oppressed, we all are oppressed.
I wonder who that was. Who was that? Oh, that'll crack me up. Okay, so we do have a question. I want to make sure that, because it's a good question, and honestly, I think it could be a whole panel on its own.
Okay.
And I want to make sure that I weave that in and still be respectful for your time. So let me see if I can get this, pull it together properly. Carla asked, since we know that our Black and brown trans siblings are the most financially insecure due to systemic bigotry and oppression, what is the responsibility of our multi-billion-dollar business to create more accessible options? And I'm just going to add this quick note to it. Their intersectionality is at play in this question, right? Because you have Black and queer vendors trying to make a living, right? And then you also want to make sure that you're giving accessible options and services to that community. So how do we build that bridge? Y'all are so cute. Marion, you go first.
Well, I think I think as a community, they come like everyone else. You have to come and be honest with particularly if you're looking for a planner, there's a level of honesty that you have to come with, because again, in our toolbox, if we can't do it, we may know someone who might be able to do it, or I might be willing to give you some free information so that you can do this on whatever, but you can't assume that no one wants to do it. That's not the case.
Yeah.
If we're in business to make money, like most of us are, if there's something, I don't think there's anybody on this panel that I can say that if there's something they can do that, you know, that they'll stretch out to do it. But the reality is, come and be honest. And then I can tell you what I can do and what I can't do.
Yeah.
Don't come to me and assume that I ought to do something for you, because I don't.
Yeah. Aprill?
Just first of all, I have a soft spot for my couples that are out there and they might not have a super huge budget. There's definitely a sweet spot that, you know, we all have as wedding vendors that we feel the most comfortable working in. But, you know, just like Chanda and everyone, and Jordan, you were saying that there is there's blogs and publications that kind of fit your aesthetic. There's so many planners out there that do serve the same purpose. Yeah. So I think it's important to find someone that kind of aligns with the look and the feel that you're working with. Again, once we have more people that are more visible, it'll be a little bit easier and we'll have a bigger like Rolodex of people to choose from. But I mean, you don't want to take, you can tell I'm trying to say this in a good way. If you don't have a luxury wedding budget, you don't want to reach out to like a luxury planner. There's going to be,
You don't want to set yourself up for failure.
Exactly. You're setting yourself up for failure. So, you do have to do a little bit of research on the back end. With that said, it never hurts. If there's someone that you really, really like and you say, hey, this is what I'm working with. Is there anything that I can do? Are you able to work in my budget? I mean, when you come to a vendor with that sort of language, not like, hey, this is what I have, or you're overpriced, can you do it for this? But you're saying, hey, I really like your work. I really want to work with you. This is my budget. Can you work with that? Vendors are more likely to kind of make special concessions for you. I had a couple that reached out to me a couple months ago, and it was a lesbian couple, and they were just so cute, and I really liked their story. And I told them, hey, I'm typically outside of your budget, but here's what I can do just because I really like you too. So it never hurts to use that sort of language. My wife and I, we didn't have a huge budget when we got married. Michael and I had this conversation. It's not about how much you have, it's about how you do it. So there are a lot of things that we can make happen and look really nice that aren't a lot of money. So, it's just about using the right language, coming in a respectful way, and, making sure you're aligning yourself with the right people.
Because here, okay, and this is, okay, I know I'm not a panelist, y'all, but I just want to add this to this. If we don't have financially sustainable businesses as advocates, you know what I'm saying? Like, then there's that layer of it that's not, of community that's not being supported, elevated, and seen because we're not able to support our own business. So it's like, you want to be able to provide those services. You want to be able to provide some level of service while also, staying afloat. I just want to add that in there. Anyways, Chanda, what about you?
I will say what my fellow planner sisters just said. It pretty much, for me, it's about like coming to a person, coming to me and telling me what you have to spend on your wedding. I have two companies, so I know that if you tell me a certain amount, it may not be for a wedding weekend. So it may have to go to a Monique affair. Based on that budget, it may not be full service. It may mean having the team of absolutely qualified planners do like wedding day direction as opposed to full service.
Yeah.
So like Aprill was saying, be honest. And like my other planner sister said, be honest. It's asking about your budget is not a judgmental thing. It's not, we're not judging you. I try to remember that people have different relationships with money. So that's where that anxiety may come from when you ask, what is your budget? But when you give us that budget, we can point you on what direction you can go to. And like my planner sister said, there is something that we could do, but it's just about being open and honest.
Yeah, I love that. Biron?
I actually would just chime in and piggyback off of what you all said. I think the open and honest conversation around what you can afford is going to open up the right type of dialogue. I think truly there has to be a sense of just comfort and confidence in being okay with that number and allowing that to either align you with the right people. And hopefully if that planner can't do it, they have a network or someone they can refer you to. So it's all about the honesty and that honest conversation up front, level set the right expectations, because it's not a no. Typically, and my motto in life is, it's usually not a no. It's more of how can we do it and do it within the confines of what you're able to do in this moment. So just pick your number. Don't go broke. Don't be unrealistic. I say that from experience, not that we went broke, but it's just be realistic with what you can do. Some people have the discretionary income to throw extra dollars and go over budget, and other people really have to stay within, the confines of what that dollar is. And that is okay, because at the end of the day, it's about the love that you want to represent and celebrate, and not about the people that you're trying to impress.
Ooh, and the value of your budget is not the value of your relationship. You know, just saying that. Go ahead, Michael and Lawrence.
Powerful.
Did y'all want to add something to that? Y'all good? Okay, so I just want to make sure all are good. I'm going to pass it back over to Michael and Lawrence. I just want to say thank you to Biron, Aprill, Chanda, Marion. You guys did such a phenomenal job. This panel was chock full of just good tidbits and quotes. I love all of your energy, and I'm just wishing you all nothing but the best. Again, thank you to Michael and Lawrence for even just giving us this platform to be able to come together. The chat was popping. Thank y'all for showing up for the part 2. Yes. I'm so glad that y'all enjoyed it, and I'm going to pass it back over to Michael and Lawrence.
Jordan, thank you for doing such an outstanding job being our moderator, and we want to thank, of course, our guest panelists for joining us. All of you are fierce advocates for the LGBTQIA plus community, and this wouldn't be possible without your support. So thank you.
And our next session will be on August 20th and will be vendors only, by invitation only. As Black Gay Weddings moves into the next phase of vendors are asking how to get involved, how to get featured on the website, and how to get listed in the directory. On August 20th, I will give vendors an exclusive sneak peek of what's coming down the road for Black Gay Weddings.
To pre-qualify for the session, follow us on Instagram and Facebook, and please subscribe to our Black Gay Weddings TV channel on YouTube and submit the vendor listing intake form. That link is also going to be located in our Instagram profile.
And once we receive your intake form and verify your subscription status, we will send you an NDA, which will allow me to share some confidential information with you.
And when we've received your NDA, we will send you a link and a password to the session. Space is limited to 100 and it's already filling up. So I suggest if you're a vendor, you register now.
Again, thank you all for tuning in. And until next time,
keep on showing the world that love is love.